Well, okay, it's about 5 past 5. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Because I want to make sure we have enough time to kind of hear all the great things from the wonderful panel we have assembled today about this really important topic. And let me just introduce myself. I'm Paul Binkley. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Career and Professional Development at the University of Mary Washington. And I get the pleasure today of kind of facilitating a discussion about ostensibly career outcomes for our graduates from Mary Washington in the last few years. But mostly I think this is going to be a discussion about what people are learning at Mary Washington and how they're using their time here and to really better themselves and to be prepared for their future. And I've been at Mary Washington for just a little over a year now, and I think it's a wonderful institution, and I think it's a great place to develop the skills and the knowledge and the abilities necessary to be successful. And I think the main reason I believe that is because of the whole liberal arts idea. You know, there's a lot of talk, has been a lot of talk over the last few years about something called soft skills and how employers think that the most important things that new recruits or new employees need are soft skills, things like writing and speaking and teamwork, problem solving, critical thinking, data fluency or digital fluency, things like that. Those are the exact things that I believe that the liberal arts education helps students develop. And in fact, I've kind of informally started a crusade to change the term from soft skills to success skills, because I think when you call them soft skills, a lot of times it takes away a lot of the how important they are. I mean, like I said, when you learn how to read and write, those are the two, read and speak, write and speak, I should say. Those are the two most important skills that employers always, every year, say that they need the most and need and want to see more strength in. And I think at Mary Washington, you're going to get that. So what we're going to do today is, this is a presentation is going to be basically in two parts. The first part is Rose Maddox, who's the Career Center's Director of Operations and Employee Relations, is going to be going through just a quick overview of what the outcomes are data-wise for our students in 2019. She's going to give us a quick snapshot, give us a high-level view, but then we're really going to dig down deep and listen to what our alumni believe they picked up while they were here. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen, and when I do that, let's see. There, I think everybody can see the PowerPoint. So I'm going to turn it over to Rose now, who's going to go through the numbers with us.
Yes, thank you. So as Paul mentioned, we're going to be talking about our class of 2019 graduates today. This data captures information on how our graduates fare in their careers within 6 months of graduation. So the reason that we're not talking about 2020, obviously, is because they have been out about 2 months. So we don't have a complete data set on that class year yet. We gather this data through a variety of surveys. We ask faculty and staff. We check social media profiles. We've had semesters where we've cold called. We really try to do everything possible to find this information so we can get a complete picture of where our graduates go after graduation. So if we're looking at the class of 2019, we have about a 91% knowledge rate. So we know what 91% of that class year has gone on to do. 89% are employed, attending graduate school, or engaged in a career-related endeavor. So we call this our career outcome rate. So that's a pretty high number. We're really proud of that. And if you look down, we have it further broken down. 71% are employed either full-time or part-time. 15% went on to a graduate program. 2% decided to do volunteer service. So that would be something like the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps. And then 1% went on to pursue military. And I will mention quickly that the additional 11% indicated that they are either seeking employment or that they are not pursuing anything at this time. We always get some students who say that, and we do reach out to students who are seeking employment with a variety of resources and tools to help them find a position or find a graduate program. We are available to help not only current students, but also alumni. So this slide shows our top employers as well as our top industries for the class of 2019. Some of those probably come as no surprise given our location. Mary Washington Healthcare and Geico are two of the biggest companies in the area, And then you also see several government agencies on there. It's very popular for students to go to DC and Richmond to work at some of these places. And our top industries vary a little year to year, but not too much. We have education, healthcare, defense, consulting, and retail. We typically have IT in there somewhere as well. And I will be really interested to see how the pandemic changes these top industries. I have a feeling we're really going to have a boost in our numbers with healthcare. So in collecting that data, we're really going to find out how this all changes. So this is probably my favorite graphic to show prospective students and their parents about our graduates. So a lot of people think most of our graduates stay in Virginia, which a lot do. They go to DC, they go to Richmond, they go to other spots, but we have graduates coast to coast. In 2019, we had them go to 20 states and Washington, DC, and 14 countries. A couple of those are students who are in the Peace Corps, but some of those are students who decided to pursue a graduate program or employment in another country, which is really cool. And finally, we do some benchmarking against other schools just to see how we rate. And if you look at some of these numbers here, we compare ourselves nationally and to different sized institutions, as well as some regional institutions. With career outcomes, we're killing it. I mean, we're doing really well. Year to year, that number stays about the same. For full-time employment, we also rate very well among our peers. And for continuing education, we're usually in the 15 to 20% range every year. So we're right in there in the ballpark with our peers for continuing education as well. And like I said, this is just for the class of 2019. If you have any interest in 2015, 2016, 2017, we have all of that information on our website. You can type in career outcomes and then go to class year, and we have some cool infographics and data on where all of our graduates have gone about the past 5 years or so. And then finally, if you could follow us on social media, I've listed out our handles here. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. We post alumni stories, events, jobs and internships, different opportunities for our students and our alumni. So give us a follow and you'll learn what we're up to, especially this upcoming year where we're going to be doing a lot of virtual events that even if you're not a current student, you could participate in.
Yeah, please do follow us on all the social media. We put out a lot of information in there, and like as Rose said, I'm a big fan of the slide she showed with all the people where everybody goes, all the different states and countries, and I really think that that is illustrative of how diverse and how adaptable and our students and our graduates are, and how exciting it is, all the great opportunities that they find. You know, the University of Mary Washington is basically 50 miles south of DC and 50 miles north of Richmond, but we're in the heart of a lot of great other opportunities, and we kind of expand worldwide too. So, you know, now is a time for this country in particular where it's very challenging, and there's a lot of concerns about the economy and jobs, et cetera, et cetera. I'm very optimistic about the future, and I'm very excited to hear from our panelists about their kind of views of the future, but then also hopefully, I'm assuming they're going to give you some advice and some ideas about what they did while they're here or didn't do or wanted to do, and how they found what they're doing. So let me spend a quick second here just introducing you to our panelists, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to them with a couple of questions. So first of all, we have Emily Battis, who graduated in 2015. She majored in mathematics, did a master's in science and applied stats. Wow, applied stats, good for you. And she's currently employed with the Atlanta Falcons. And lives down in Atlanta, actually, where I'm sure it's quite a bit hotter, but I don't know if it could be much hotter than it is here in Fredericksburg right now. Johnny Cronin, he finished last year, about a little over a year ago, poli-sci, and I'm with a minor in business, and is working for the Commonwealth of Virginia as a Virginia Management Fellow. Brooke Lomax finished in 2015 with a majoring in sociology. She did her master's at UMW in education. We have a lot of students who do that every year, and then went on to become a teacher, which I think is terrific, and is currently teaching elementary school, I believe in Stafford County. You can correct me if I'm wrong with that, for sure. There's a lot of demand in this area, which is why our numbers are higher in education, for sure. and Melissa Pilipovich, who finished in 2017, Business Administration and Accounting, and she's currently working for KPMG in the federal audit practice. And she is alumni leader for the UMW College of Business Affinity Group. So this is exciting. I think we have a really wonderful group of panelists. And what I'm going to do now here is, let me just kind of open it up. Brooke, let me start with you. You can be the first person to kind of respond to a prompt, which is, how did your time at Mary Washington kind of prepare you for where you are? And let's just start there.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that my time at Mary Washington prepared me very well for where I am. A big part of that is the general electives that we have to take. So I wasn't just taking classes in my major. I took like computer science, economics, psychology, and all of those have actually played a part in me being a teacher now. So I'm grateful for that. I also took advantage of the internships offered in Fredericksburg and the student teachings and practicums that I did in the student teaching program. And those prepared me as well because I was getting actual experience and hands-on experience in my field. I also walked away with resources such as lesson plans and like practical things that I could use and take with me outside of college. So it also helped me by building connections. I built a lot of connections through the internships and practicums with teachers in different counties. So I kind of had a choice of where I wanted to teach afterwards, which was nice. And also through the collaborative work that we had to do in sociology prepared me as well with working with a team and a diverse group of people.
That's great. Melissa, you're working up in New York City, right? With KPMG and
in DC.
Oh, you're in DC. Okay, great.
Yep.
So I'll pose the same question to you.
Sure. Yeah, so similar to what Brooke mentioned, my classes were first and foremost, specifically my accounting classes. They really helped me with my accounting career. I learned, a lot of the standards, a lot of kind of like that background knowledge that helped me. And some of that I still use to this day, towards my clients. So I think the accounting classes were great and really, really helpful. And then also the networking aspect. So similar to how, what Brooke mentioned, making those connections early on, I was able to kind of broaden my network as I got kind of older, at UMW. And that really helped me when I was out of college because I already knew quite a few alumni. So that was really helpful too.
Great. And Emily, what about you? You're working inside the NFL, which is very different from a lot of our students, but I think it's got to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, my job's very exciting, and especially right now with it being kind of up in the air. But UMW really had a huge impact on the career path I ended up taking, mostly because of the small class sizes and the ability to form those one-on-one relationships with your professors. And I was a math major, but I hadn't really taken many statistics courses until I took one with Dr. Asungai, and he ultimately became my advisor, and I realized I wanted to hone in on statistics specifically, and that led to me getting my master's in applied statistics, and then now I work in sports analytics, so it's pretty cool.
So are you able to give us some kind of stats on all the players that maybe we don't know about in the press? Well, I won't hold you to that.
The one thing I'll say is they're mostly all very down to earth.
Great.
They're very cool guys.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. Johnny, you're working directly in the public sector with the state of Virginia.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. I'm sure everyone's had their own experiences transitioning to work from home life, but the public sector is always like you got to show up. It's more like traditional sense of a work environment, but I think big thing UMW helped me do was, learn every single way of working on projects and doing different things. So now I'm going into the public sector teaching older employees like, hey, this is what Google Docs is. Like, this is what Google Hangouts is. And so things like that. And, beyond the classroom, I think one of the greatest impacts it had on me was hanging out, obviously you meet people, but then having the conversations with people of different backgrounds and different perspectives is really beneficial, because that's the world we live in, and you can't be in your bubble. And meeting people from all around Virginia, from outside of Virginia that went to Mary Washington was really cool and helped me broaden my worldview. And I still have a lot of friends. Obviously, it's only been a year, but I still have a lot of friends from time there, and I think I'm a better person for it.
That's great. So I know a couple of you mentioned internships and maybe some other experiential opportunities. How did those help, or how did you find those, or what was kind of the process with that? And anybody wants to start, just jump right in. Brooke, I know you mentioned you did an internship, or at least one.
Yeah, I interned with Big Brothers Big Sisters, but I cannot remember 100% how I found it. I think I know it was through UMW, I just don't know which department.
Mm-hmm.
I went into, it might have been the career center, I'm not sure. But I went in and just told them I was looking for internships, and they had a bunch pulled for me. Like I told them what I was looking for, they pulled a bunch for me, and then I was able to reach out to the ones I was interested in, and it was a pretty easy process.
Oh, cool. Okay. Who else did an internship? Where did you intern, Johnny?
So I interned at this place called Ballotpedia. It's this online political encyclopedia. Basically just gives people information about elections and throughout the whole country. And it's funny because it's pre-pandemic, obviously, but it was all telework. So all summer I was working on a computer from home. And so I guess it's prepared me that way. But the way I found out about it was just talking to my professors and asking them. And lo and behold, I mean, they get so many opportunities. So that's my biggest advice to everyone, is to talk to your professors.
Yeah. So that's interesting, Johnny. Did you feel that a lot of people say when you do like virtual internships that you're not getting kind of the full office professional experience? How did you feel that went for you?
Well, I think it's all subjective. I mean, you can make your experience good or bad based on how much work you put into it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you reach out to people, if you work hard, if you ask questions, and that's anyway, because, you know, UMW, we don't know what the future is going to hold, right? Like, we don't know how much virtual conversations like this we're going to have. So, you know, it's all about the effort you put in. I thought I learned a lot from that internship in terms of how to communicate virtually, and now that's work life now. So
yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Emily, you did an internship as well?
I did, but not while I was at UMW.
Okay.
And it was with the Falcons when I
finished
school. Yeah, because NFL internships tend to be in season and full time, so difficult to do.
Yeah. Did you find that you found that through the graduate program that you were in, or did you find it another way?
So I actually was in my last semester of grad school, and I had applied to a full-time position with the Houston Texans.
Okay.
I interviewed for that, and I didn't end up getting it, but the person who hired me at the Falcons had asked the Texans if they had interviewed anyone that they didn't end up going with, and my resume was long, and that's how I ended up getting it.
That's a great story. I hear those kinds of stories all the time. It's like, yeah, you never really know where it's going to come from, but as long as you're out there making the effort, good for you.
Thank you.
Great. And what about Melissa? Did you do an internship or anything while you were in school?
I did. I did an internship with Liberty Tax, which I actually found through the career fair.
Oh, great.
So that was really great. And that was my first kind of introduction into accounting. And then I realized I didn't want to do tax. So that was good. I learned that early on. And then I did an audit internship with KPMG, actually. So I found them also at a career fair. So it really worked out. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And it's great to hear that you did an internship and you know, found something you didn't want to do. I mean, I think that's just as important as finding out what you don't want to do or do want to do.
And it helped me realize that it's okay, you know, that it's okay that you have an internship and you try and you realize it's not for you and you still have time to do something else. So
right.
Yeah.
How many of you ever experienced the condition I call a FOMO? It's like, what if I don't like this internship? What am I missing out on? Have you ever experienced that before? Or maybe not with any, I'm sure you have, but it's like I get a lot of students who say to me, I don't know if it's going to work out. It sounds interesting. I mean, we'll just try it and we'll see. You know, put your foot in the water and give it a shot. What other kind of out of classroom experiences did you all take advantage of? Maybe study abroad or anything like undergraduate research that may have kind of given you some ideas about where you wanted to go after you graduated?
I did an independent study my senior year with the professor I mentioned earlier, because at the time I thought maybe being an actuary would be enjoyable. Turned out that was not for me. But it was to prepare for that first actuarial exam and just get a little more one-on-one teaching with my professor. So in a way, it helped me a lot for statistics, but it also showed me what I didn't want to do.
That's great. That's a good experience.
I did a spring break trip over to England with the College of Business. And we did like a program where we went to all like the soccer teams, and then we kind of looked at like the marketing aspect as well. So that was really neat.
Oh, that is kind of cool. Yeah. Were you mostly in London or were you outside of London?
Mostly London, yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah, Manchester, London. Yep.
Right, right.
Yep.
And Brooke, did you have to do did you do your student teaching or practice teaching or while you were an undergrad? No.
I did not, but I did through sociology. It was in a class, but it was a very hands-on class where we were able to like make change. I can't remember what it was about now, but we pretty much did like a survey in Fredericksburg and went around and put bows on. I think it was like for pedestrians that have gotten hit.
Oh.
So we did a study on it, and we actually put like a petition out for them to redo a bridge in Fredericksburg. So it was very hands-on. And it helped me realize that sociology was my passion, but it was really cool.
Oh, that's great. So you helped kind of get the bridge that goes over Route 1.
Yeah, the one by Wegmans, I believe.
The one by Wegmans. Okay, good. That's great.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And then I know that I did my student teaching in grad school, but I know if you do the 5-year education program, you will do that in your undergrad. So that experience is really hands-on. You're in the classroom. The teachers are mentoring you. They give you, like, within 5 weeks, you're fully taking on the classroom and teaching with their guidance. So it gives really, really, really great experience right before getting into the classroom yourself.
Yeah, that could be, I bet that was a little bit stressful at times, at least.
Yeah. It's nice though that we had the chance to do that with another teacher there, rather than just being my first year. So
good for you. Johnny, did you do anything else?
Yeah, I went on a study abroad trip to Cuba.
Oh.
And after my sophomore year.
Wow.
And yeah, it was kind of like, I mean, politically, like the perfect time to do it, because it was like when it was opening up, right before it was closed back down. So you talk about FOMO, that was my ultimate thing of like, I can't not do this. Is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and you never know when it's going to pop up.
Right.
And to this day, I mean, I already talked about expanding my worldview, but that really puts everything in perspective on how, fortunate we are in this country, and just, different aspects of life that you take for granted, meeting some of the people, interacting with them, doing service projects that we did there. It was really a cool experience. So I would recommend anyone that's going to UMW, if the rest of the world lets Americans into their country, to go.
Yeah, let's hope that changes in the near future. I mean, I'm a big fan of anytime you can get abroad for any reason, for any amount of time, I'm a big fan of it. And I will tell you, a lot of employers see that as distinctive, because when you travel abroad, you have to kind of deal with ambiguity, deal kind of with things as they come at you, which I think is terrific. And going to Cuba, you probably got a lot of great stories to tell from that too.
And I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, there you go. It's a good conversation piece too, especially like you're doing interviews, and to bring that up and talk a little bit about that. Good for you. What my next kind of prompt question for you guys is, what do you think, or what would you have, not knowing what you know now, what is it that you wish you had taken advantage of or had done while you were at Mary Washington, to kind of, knowing what you know now, where you are now, what the job that you have now. Emily, why don't you start us off?
I don't think this necessarily relates to the job I have now, but I wish I would have studied abroad and spent a semester abroad. I played field hockey. So my freshman year, the whole team went over to Italy and we played a few games over there versus some
Okay.
teams. So that was really cool. And we were over there for about 10 days, but that's really the extent of it that I did. So I wish I would have done a whole semester abroad, but that's really the one thing that I can think of.
Well, you got over there. That's what matters, right? And you got to see some stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Italy is great. Well, good for you.
Yeah, and they're very good at field hockey.
Oh, they are. I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, they're very good.
Great. Melissa, what about you?
I think for me, it kind of goes back to everyone always tells you college goes by really fast.
Mhm.
And I never realized it until I was in my 4th year and it was over. So I think if I could just go back, I would just kind of want to slow down and just at least have like a year of like kind of some more fun. But, you know, it all worked out. But yeah, that would be my only piece.
Good. I like that. Yeah, take advantage of it. Stop and gather ye rosebuds, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that definitely happens. And I think life tends to go faster the older you get too. So you definitely take a second to appreciate where you are. I think a lot of students I've worked with over the years are really fixated on the future and where they're supposed to be and all that kind of stuff, and maybe miss the moment where they are. And I think that's really good advice. Yeah. Brooke, what about you? Is there anything that you would have wished you had done or taken advantage of?
Mine ties into Melissa. I wrote I thought to enjoy every moment that you have there because it goes by so quickly, and then it's like 5 years later and you're like, oh my gosh, college is really over. You know, where'd it go? And then definitely just visit your professors. They're there. They have resources for you. They want to get to know you, and so I just wish I had taken more advantage of that and getting to know them and going to office hours. And then last thing is to study a little bit each day for my test instead of cramming right before.
Right.
I just feel like I didn't do it all the time. I did it a few times. I just feel like it would have been more beneficial if I had just taken the time each day, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, just to study throughout my courses.
Yeah, great advice on that one. And I think, unfortunately, I think a lot of students are hesitant to go talk to their professors, especially younger students. I used to work at Johns Hopkins University, and the professors up there can be a little, let's just say, intense. That is not the case that I found at Mary Washington. Everybody is just very welcoming, and they have a vested interest in seeing everybody do really well. So I think you're right. Spend more time talking to professors, and they're real people. They have lives too, and it's a lot of them just kind of want to chat.
Yeah, and I still actually am in touch with a few of them as well. So
that's great. Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny, what about you? What are your thoughts on that?
So definitely echoing Brooke's point, talking to professors was something that I started doing more when, I'm looking for internships and jobs, but realizing that they are here to help, and especially at Mary Washington, they're so friendly. I mean, the political science department was so good to me, just letting me know about opportunities, talking in depth about the stuff that we covered in class. And then another piece is, doing things outside the classroom at a greater rate. I think that my senior year, I started to do things more. I thought I was an athlete, that I shouldn't be doing too much stuff outside of sports, but realizing that joining a certain club that meets once a week at nights after practice, doing stuff like that really made the educational experience greater for me, and overall just made it a better experience. And I wish I had done that sooner.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Like taking advantage of more things that are going on. It can be a little overwhelming. I get that feeling that there's so much that's coming at you so quickly and so often, it feels like. How did you guys decide what to do? Like, Emily, you did field hockey, and obviously Johnny, you were in basketball, but you studied abroad, all that kind of stuff. How did certain things rise to the top?
For me, I tried a little bit of everything. So my freshman and sophomore year, I probably was in so many clubs, but then it kind of helped me narrow down what I was interested in, and definitely just finding your passion, but also trying something new. Like I tried flag football, and that was really fun. So that just helped me.
That's great.
Yeah,
go right ahead.
I was just saying, like, you never know when something's gonna fall in your lap, and when you'll be aware of something. And like something I did my senior year, I applied the end of my junior year, was to be a student alumni ambassador, and that was so much fun because I got to start experiencing different things in the community that basketball didn't wasn't in contact with. So it really just grew my appreciation for things outside of sports and everything that Mary Washington does. So the advice is, when you see it, take it.
Yeah. Melissa?
I was actually going to say similar. I joined SAA as Student Alumni Ambassadors too. And at first, my first 2 years, I kind of followed what my friends did, because that, if they went to a club, I did the same thing,
Yeah,
and it
makes
was
sense.
easy. Yeah. And then as I kind of got a little bit more experience, I was like, okay, well, maybe I want to do something a little different. Both my friends were taking the teacher path, and I knew that was not for me. So I was like, okay, let me try and join Student Alumni Ambassadors. And that was one program that let me attend like tons of alumni events. And I just met so many people kind of outside of that group that, I was hanging out with that, on campus. So that was really good.
Yeah, good. What about Emily? How did you decide what to do and when to do it?
I knew all through high school I wanted to play field hockey in college, so I really only looked at schools where I would play, with the exception of one. So that was just what I've always known I wanted to do.
Sure. That's great. And I tell you what, being a student athlete, I'm sure it's like it's a real education on how to manage your time, among other things. But I think it's not easy to do. You guys are, even in the off season, you're so busy.
Yeah, it definitely taught me a lot. We would have 6 a.m. lifts and then have to go to class and then have practice in the afternoon and then the homework and studying to do. So it did teach me time management really well. And I'm so happy that I did it.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey, Paul, real quick, we have a question in the chat
Yep.
from Jennifer. She wants to know, how long are internships, and are they just during the summers?
Yeah, I was gonna get to that, but that's a really good question. I meant to ask about that. When when you guys did your internships or what have you, were they only in the summers, or did you fall and spring too? I know Emily, you did yours during grad school. I'm assuming that probably was you said it was full time, so probably in the summer.
So mine was right after I graduated from grad school.
Okay.
And it was actually a year long.
Oh, it was a year. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was supposed to just be 6 months, and then it got extended an additional 6 months, and then I got full time after that.
Oh, look at you. That's great. And Brooke, what about your internship?
Yeah, mine was during the fall semester, I believe. It was definitely during the school year.
Okay.
It counted as a class course. So I would go, I think I would go like 3 hours 3 times a week or something like that.
Okay. Was that, and it was in Fredericksburg, correct?
Yes, with Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Oh, right, Big Brothers Big Sisters. Did you find that difficult? Was it hard to kind of balance doing an internship in class?
No, I loved it. It was fairly easy. They were very accommodating. If I had like something due for class or needed to be on campus for something, they were understanding of that.
That's great. What year were you when you did that?
I want to say like 2014 maybe. Or
So
wait,
you were,
I was a junior, sorry.
you were, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was a junior. And it's actually kind of cool because now that I'm like married and got into a career that I enjoy, I actually have gone back, and now I'm a big sister. So I've gone back and participated in the program.
That's great. Good for you. Melissa, what about you? You did an internship. Was it during the summer?
One of them was, but then the other one was during tax season.
Oh.
So I kind of got both extremes.
Great.
So that one was difficult, but that was because of the circumstance. So
yeah, tax season's pretty intense, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How long? Wait, so that internship was just a few weeks?
I think altogether they trained us, I think for 4 weeks, and then we were actually there for 5-6 weeks, I want to say. I think it was like a 10-week program altogether, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Not a full semester, but did you get credit for that one, or was that?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I bet that was kind of intense.
But a good experience again.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. What about you, Johnny? Did you when you did your virtual internship, was that school year or summer?
So that was over the summer, but then I also did a thing my senior year in the fall where I was registering students to vote on campus through this organization that fellowship internship. I was getting paid. That's the most important part.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, in my experience, to answer the question, like there's internships all throughout the year at random points. Like they're any duration you want, any season. I think it's all about just finding them, and then in terms of time management, like we were talking about.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think now too, so with COVID, I honestly think that right now there's a good opportunity for students because I think a lot of students assume that you have to stay within the kind of Fredericksburg, you have to stay within kind of DC, whatever. But now you can basically do an internship anywhere. I mean, like you said, Johnny, you did an internship virtually, so you could be doing work for somebody in Japan.
There were people all across the country. They didn't even have a central office. So
yeah, I think that's kind of the nature of what's coming down the pike now, and COVID has kind of sped up the process, I believe. So, and speaking of which, I want to ask you guys one more question, and then we'll see if the attendees have any questions for us. What do you guys think are the skills or the abilities that people coming to college now most need to be successful? Emily, we'll start with you, just because you're in my upper left corner here.
Communication, I think, is the number one most important skill. Being able to effectively communicate with everyone and anyone that you come in contact with can really go a long way. Like, for example, in my job, I have to convey all my statistical findings to people who might not necessarily understand statistics, like our coaching staff who are not statisticians, our GM, my direct reports, our director of football operations, they don't know statistics. So if I can't effectively communicate to them what I'm finding, the work was pointless because they can't use it. So that I think is a huge skill to have. And then another one, I think coding is really important too.
Interesting.
Yeah, just even knowing one language like semi-proficiently can go a long way, because once you know one, it's so easy to learn another one. And you can use it in so many different ways now. And even if you're not going to use it in your job, it shows that you can learn more skills and be more marketable.
Did you pick up coding in your grad program, or did you pick it up since you started working, or?
So I learned a couple languages at UMW. A couple of my stat courses used R, and then in grad school I focused more on R, and then it was also a SAS program. So I got a certificate in that, a dual certificate through my grad program, and then through work I've learned a couple other ones.
Great.
But once you know one, they're so similar.
Right.
So, yeah.
You know, and not to get off topic, but real quick, I learned not too long ago that through our public library system, and I'm sure this is true of most public library systems in this country, our students have access for free to LinkedIn Learning, which used to be called lynda.com, which is this library of thousands upon thousands of training videos and such, where you can get certified in things like R and SAS and such for free. So it's really great. So I think it's a great tip. Brooke, what about you? What are your tips for students?
My tips are definitely to kind of bounce off Emily, is just like collaboration, learning how to work together with people that are different and think different than you. Number two is like to be an active learner. So always ask questions, never think you know everything, like always be open to learning something new. And then number two, of course, is to have fun, because no matter what life, wherever life takes you, just like embrace the journey and be resilient.
Yeah, great. I think have fun. That's a really big one. I think that gets lost in a lot of people's lives. That's really great suggestion. Johnny, what do you think?
Well, I can only echo what everyone else said, but I'll also add just, I think what you said, Paul, at the beginning, just being able to write effectively and speak effectively goes such a long way. It's so easily transferable between any job. And, you know, when people see that you can put your thoughts down succinctly on paper or in an email or whatever, and communicate that to them. And then you can give a presentation about it, even if it's the smallest thing, like, you know, document management, or just even in the interview, it goes such a long way to impressing them, to make them maybe trust you a little bit more with future projects, because they know that you got a good education, that you can communicate effectively your points. So definitely echoing what everyone said, and of course, have fun.
Yeah, of course, great. No, I think those are critical. And Melissa, last but certainly not least.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, everyone has said like really great things. But the one I wanted to mention is just to be willing to negotiate and to realize that that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I think knowing kind of, you know, being confident in what you have to bring to the table is really important. So, you know, being willing to negotiate, and whether that's salary or what comes with the job, whatever that might be. I think having that confidence is good to go into the workplace with.
Yeah. Wow, I think that's great. I couldn't agree with you more on that one. I think particularly, you know, over the decades, I've learned a lot about negotiations and how most women do not negotiate. And you're absolutely right. Employers are kind of expecting that. And what's the worst they can say is no, right? I mean,
exactly.
You bring value to the table, so that's one way to measure it.
Yep.
And it's more than money too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, benefits, you know, whatever it might be, whatever comes with the job.
Yeah. Absolutely. Vacation, what have you. No, that's terrific.
Again.
That's a really great point. Well, terrific. I don't see any more questions right now, but I'm going to open it up to everyone. So Jennifer just asked a question, actually. She asked, what courses or resources at UMW did you take or use to develop your quote unquote soft skills? So what courses did you take to help you develop writing, speaking, problem solving, teamwork, et cetera, leadership? And Melissa, do you want to jump in?
Sure. So I took a theater class, which was very difficult at the time for me because I'm an accountant. One, like I don't do that kind of stuff. So it was really difficult. But looking back on it, it was a really good experience to kind of get in front of the classroom and just improv something. You know, it was a really, really good experience. So I would recommend taking that class if you can. Yeah.
That's great. So was it like an improv class or where you had to basically think on your feet? Is that the idea?
Sometimes there were certain assignments that we had, but then others were just, you know, like a script and you had to memorize your, you know, lines and such. But just being creative is not really my forte. So that kind of took me a little bit out of my normal box. So.
Cool. Good for you. Whom else? Brooke? Or whom? Emily, go right ahead.
I took a public speaking course, which I think it falls under an elective that you can choose to take. But every like couple weeks, there's a different prompt and you had to write a speech about a new topic that you might not know anything about, or it might be something you're passionate about, and you have to say it in front of the class, and you're judged on your ability to make contact with the class and not just read like right off the paper with it in your face and project your voice so people can hear you. So that was a good experience.
Was that taught by a non-RAL?
It wasn't. I forget what it was taught by, but it was in that department.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, that's, and you know, I'm assuming that most of you probably took advantage of the Speaking Center, which I think is a resource that I have never seen at any other university, and I think it's terrific. I mean, most schools have a writing center, right? Mary Wash has a writing center and a speaking center, which I think is terrific.
Yeah, I can bounce off of Emily. I took a public speaking course as well, which I really think prepared me well. And then kind of just throughout many of my sociology courses, we would write and speak, and the professors would kind of help you polish those soft skills as well.
Great. Johnny, any classes stand out for you?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned the speaking and writing center, because those were really helpful. Some courses, the professors mandate that you go. And so while that was sometimes tedious, it was good to like go and like actually talk to people and get some feedback. I think, you know, with any class, there's soft skills implemented. I mean, that's why they're easily transferable. So I think to answer the question, you know, just on a mega level or meta level, like any class that you take, there's going to be elements of writing, there's going to be elements of speaking. And if you're lacking in one of them, you think you need improvement, just get those reps. It's like, you know, I relate everything to sports. Like get your practice reps in so that you can, you know, when it's time for your job or for the presentation, like you're going to be ready and more prepared. So
Right.
I took public speaking too, and a couple of my like more advanced political science classes were really heavy in research and writing. But I think that a lot of class, like pretty much every class you take is going to have some elements of it. So
Sure.
I wouldn't freak out if you don't get into public speaking or get into certain research or writing class, because I know that a lot of the classes are tight. So you can make do with what you get.
That's great. Yeah, I think the public speaking aspect of it is really important. I always became very nervous, and I was very stressed out about public speaking. I always really kind of got to me, and I was always afraid of making a mistake. And I found, and you guys can tell me how you feel about this, is that the community or the environment at Mary Washington is extraordinarily supportive. Is that how much of that, you know, when you were doing these types of things, how stressful was it, or how much support did you feel from your classmates, your, you know, the community, the faculty, et cetera?
Well, I can start. I think, like, you know, in public speaking or anytime you're giving a presentation, like the students in the class are not investors. Like they're not hanging on your every word. They have to do it too. So everyone's in kind of the same boat. So you don't have to really worry about them super judging you. And I think that makes it a community that we're all doing this together. We're all practicing together.
Great, good point.
Yeah, I also think like a lot of the students and the professors obviously too are all very respectful. So it's not like you're getting up to speak or present something in front of a class and all the other students are like looking down on their phones or talking to their friends and not paying attention. That kind of can stress you out a little bit more. Like I never found that to be the case, and everyone's really respectful of you.
That's great.
I would say the same thing. I was trying to think back to my experiences, and I would say that like I just felt my professors cared, so it wasn't like they were going to be like, this was terrible. Like I knew they were going to give me good positive feedback, so it made me help me feel comfortable.
Great.
Yeah, and same thing for me, that comfort level. Obviously at first it's probably difficult, but then once you get up there and you see that people actually do care, you know, it makes it a lot easier. And using the resources like the Speaking Center, Writing Center, you just feel more confident in your work. So that helps a lot too.
That's great. Well, let's see here. Do any of the other attendees have any other questions for the group? And before I forget, I will tell you, I know, Johnny, you're kind of in the whole, you've mentioned a couple times like elections and such. If you have any interest in becoming an elections observer abroad, let me know. Because I can give you some tips on how to do that. I've done that a number of different times. I've been to places like Ukraine and Tajikistan and Azerbaijan and Kosovo, etc. It's a really great way to talk about getting someone else to pay for your trip abroad and to see democracy in another country is just wonderful.
Definitely, that sounds cool.
Yeah, let me know. So unless we have any other final questions here, I don't think we do. And Jennifer, again, thank you for your question. Well, let me just say thanks to you guys. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot. You gave us a lot of really good information and great ideas. And for the attendees out there, don't hesitate to get in touch with follow us at the Career Center, ask us any questions. We'll do our best to kind of help you get to where you want to go. But I definitely think that Mary Washington is going to help you develop and become a great member of the working professional world. So I appreciate you paying attention and joining us. And for our panelists, again, thank you so much. And take care. Take care of yourselves.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.